Hey, how y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to be talking about AEW Dynamite, November the 18th, 2020. Hit the like button for me, if you please. Also, hit subscribe unless you're already subscribed, in which case, I appreciate you being subscribed. So the show starts out with the Young Bucks versus Top Flight. Now, Top Flight, one of the members of Top Flight, who's named Airwolf, he is unmasked. He was Airwolf in MLW. I saw him there, and I kind of thought he was cool. I didn't know he was black. I really didn't. I thought he was just like a tanned Mexican. But it was cool, and and I found myself to be far more interested in Top Flight than normal. Maybe it's because they played this vignette for them, and I find out, you find out that these guys are 19 and 21 years old. They're really young guys, and they're out there, getting this huge opportunity. And no matter what you got to say about the Young Bucks, as I have plenty negative to say about the Young Bucks, but this was pretty cool. Them giving these guys this opportunity was cool. I didn't really enjoy this match though, because it was what the Young Bucks matches are. Like they do all of their spots. They literally just do spots. So I was more interested in looking at what Top Flight could do. And they botched a lot of stuff, but a lot of their stuff, they look good. These guys have they're crazy athletic. That's the one thing that AEW does very well, is they find very well athletic performers. There was no question over who was going to win this match. So it was essentially just how long can we go before we get people upset because this match is too long? The match was still too long. That's the moniker of this show. AEW Dynamite, too long. Match too long. This match was a little too long. It was meant to be a showcase for Top Flight, so it made sense that while this match has got so much time. And I actually liked that they talked a lot about, the training of Top Flight, how they were trained by Molly Holly and Ken Anderson, that they, had been training with Motor City Machine Guns in preparation for this match. They're doing a lot of dropping of other companies in AEW, and I know a lot of people like that, but you don't have any idea how alienating it is for people who don't watch wrestling, or who don't watch Impact, or don't watch NWA. Like how alienated they feel. It's like if you like read comic books, right? And as a comic book reader, you always have this problem. Like you go into a comic book shop and you want to read Spider-Man, and it's Spider-Man number 450. And you feel like you have to read the other 439 or 449 books in order to understand what's going on in this book, right? So if that's the case, and that's not always true when it comes to comics. Sometimes there's a jumping on point, there's a jumping off point. If you're going to build your wrestling company where you have to watch Impact, or you have to watch NWA, or you have to watch all this type of stuff in order to understand what's going on, you're going to lose more people than you're going to gain. That's just a fact. And this is the one thing WWE does that is smart, is they treated their own universe. Now, they fuck up by not even acknowledging things that go on within their own universe. That's the stupid part. The smart part is they act like nothing else exists, because you don't need to go watch Ricochet do all his crap in New Japan in order to appreciate him now. Even you probably appreciate him more if you watch his stuff in Japan. But he's not the same person. He's not doing the same stuff. He's not having the same match quality, same match types, or anything like that. So they section all that shit off. Essentially, WWE is a different part of your career. Whatever you do on the indies, they don't care about that. Whatever you do in WWE is different. AEW kind of needs to do the same thing. Like when they start having all this, this guy was a 7-time champion around the indies. It's people like, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to me? And I kept thinking that during one match later. And even though I enjoyed the match, we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about it when we get there. But there was a lot of talk, about other people. Like the Motor City Machine Guns have never appeared in AEW. If people have just been watching AEW because they want to watch something different, they didn't bother to watch TNA, or they didn't bother to watch Impact or MLW or anything else, they don't know, who Motor City Machine Guns is. And then you don't even tell them. You just basically say, well, they were, they said that they were the rivals of the Young Bucks. That means they wrestled them a couple of times 10 fucking years ago. No, man. They did the same thing last week when they talked about Matt Sydal beating Chris Jericho. And it was like 14 years prior. Like, no, you don't need to do that. Like you have you don't need to reference what other people are doing all the time. You have to realize that every comic, every episode of Dynamite is somebody's first. Don't overload them with information. Give them the information they need to appreciate what's going on right here. Stop trying to cater to the smart marks who want you to, I saw so-and-so and so-and-so wrestle so-and-so and such and such at Final Battle 2011. It's like, who fuck cares? The average viewer doesn't know anything about that. Ignore it. It shouldn't add to it. If you know it, it adds. If you don't know it, it doesn't harm. That's what you should be looking at. If you know that these two guys or these people are familiar with these people, good. If you don't know, then you can still enjoy what's going on. So I was cool with them talking about the guys training and stuff like that. But when they started talking about, they was training with the young Motor City Machine Guns in preparation, I was like, to the average person, these guys are rookies. Tell the underdog story. Don't tell me that they were training with the chief rivals of, the Young Bucks, and I've never seen these guys before, which of course I have. I watch Impact, and I watched Impact. I saw that Generation Me Motor City Machine Gun bullshit. That was really when I stopped liking the Young Bucks, because I was like, this is absolute trash. But this is a long time ago. So I'm gonna do the whole Inner Circle thing later. So I'm going to do that right before the main event or something like that. I'm going to do the whole Inner Circle thing together. So after the match, Angelico and Jack Evans attacked Jack Evans attacked Top Flight after the match, and they got chased off by the Young Bucks. So they really do have plans for these guys. Good. Good. Give Top Flight another opportunity. I like that. Now, it's kind of weird that Angelico and Jack Evans don't attack the champions, that they would attack the rookies. I'm guessing it's just going to say, oh, well, the rookies get, opportunities and we don't, yada, 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 yada. Still should attack the champions. That would have made more sense. So, but at least they're doing something with Angelico and Jack Evans. At least they're doing something. I'm pretty sure certain people being on this show had something to do with somebody else being on this show. We'll get to that in a moment. So Jon Moxley cuts this promo. This is where he breaks the news that, Renee Young is pregnant. He's kind of dropped it in the middle of a promo, which was kind of smooth. I'm like, okay. I was like, pregnant wife? I'm like, is that kayfabe or is that serious? But either way, I'm glad he's not a childless weirdo like a lot of people on this roster. Go out and have babies, man. Reproduce. Anyway, because you need something to dote on, man. You need to have some kind of tie to the future. I'm still not thrilled with Moxley's promo, but I did like the content of this promo, where he's basically saying, I always know what to do because I'm the good guy. As long as I realize that I'm the good guy, I always know what to do. I'm never in over my head. I'm sore, I'm beat up, I'm tired, I'm going through personal stuff, being the AEW World Champion, but all I know is I'm the good guy. And I know how to do the right thing. I like that. I like that message. I like the content. But it did lack a little bit of fire. It did lack some passion. It was a little bit of story time when he was talking about his dad and everything. And I like how he casually said like his dad picked him up from the police station. He didn't say what for. He just kind of was like, my dad picked me up from the police station. It's kind of like, police station? You got arrested? Like, for what? But he didn't go into it. And that, I kind of like that too, is that he dropped these little nuggets and didn't really go into any detail. Like, so it's kind of like it gave you the idea that, he's my dad, 6'3", blah, 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 scary, intimidating, and you were like, okay, I got the mental picture of his dad. And then you get this, he said his dad was scary, but then he also says his dad told him like, we're the good guys. Kind of like in a hushed whisper, and almost humble like way. Like we're humble good guys. We don't always play the game the way people want us to play it, but we're the good guys, man. Like we're the underdogs or whatever. And I dig that. So I'm still not thrilled and over the moon by John Moxley's promo skills, but I did like this promo. It was pretty good. So Kip Sabian versus Orange Cassidy. I really hate reusing other people's stuff, but once it's been said perfectly, there really is no other way to say it. Jim Cornette said that Orange Cassidy is like a comedian and only knows one joke. And you kind of, when I heard that, I was like, fuck. You can't really, once you've seen his routine, you've seen it. And that's just kind of how it is with Orange Cassidy. You've seen him put his hands in his pockets. You've seen him do all the ducks and the dodges and the flips and everything with his hands in his pockets. So that's what he did. He did all of his same stuff. And it's not the same as, Ric Flair having a routine or Shawn Michaels having a routine or Bret Hart having a routine. They was creative in putting their stuff together. That's kind of what wrestling is, and they're also good at selling and, good at physical storytelling and all those sorts of things that Orange Cassidy is not. He's a phenomenon, quote unquote, as far as AEW is concerned, because they're like, oh my God, this guy's actually talented. But it's like, how many times could you watch the same match? Really? Like, this match was far too long, too. Also, because Kip Sabian has no pedigree. Like, sure, Orange Cassidy, for starters, fell off a fucking cliff after he wrestled Chris Jericho. After beating Chris Jericho, he really fell off a cliff. I mean, he had 2 matches with Cody. One was like a disqualification, or it was thrown out, or it was a draw or something. And then the other one, he just plain lost. And the guy has no footing anywhere as far as, being a major top guy in the company. And if he was a major top guy in the company, you didn't do him any favors by putting him in a match that was like 15 minutes with Kip goddamn Sabian. A guy who is not a physical threat to anybody. The guy's a fucking Ken doll with no chest, no legs, no arms, and a pencil neck. He had a neck like an ink pen. Like, why is this guy still in the ring doing all this stuff? It's like you got one guy who's no physical threat to anybody, and the other guy is a musician who can only play one note. So it's like, I'm not interested. Like, you can only play one song. I hated this. It was entirely too long. This was way too long. So Miro was on commentary. He wasn't really effective at doing much of anything on commentary, but they did show that he was an insane athlete, but how quickly after Kip Sabian got beat, he was able to make it to the ring and beat up on Orange Cassidy before the best friends came out there to run him off. So that was about it. Miro it's not looking good, dog. Or not. Whatever they're doing with Miro, I think people are more engaged by Lana being put through the table than by whatever Miro is doing. And that should tell you something. When people are talking so much about Lana getting put through the table, like you have some people talking about it in a way that Lana is being buried. You have other people talking about it. They're like, oh no, they're building up Lana. They're actually, telling this story with Lana. And I've seen both sides of this. I've seen, podcasts talk about, oh, they burying Lana, and other people are like, oh yeah, well, she's obviously going to be the sole Survivor Series and all this type of stuff. But more people are talking about what they're doing with Lana than what AEW is doing with Miro. And that's a shame, because he's supposed to be the one with the talent. He's supposed to be the talent, and they're not using him. They got him tied to the hip with these fucking goofs. These mama's boys. It's stupid. I noticed that everybody in AEW now has a villain video game villain entrance. Now Kenny Omega, Darby Allin, and Cody have these elongated entrances. It's fucking ridiculous. So they had to have a contract signing for the winter is coming. Tony Khan is turning to WWE. He's turning into Vince McMahon. Now there's a winter is coming edition of AEW Dynamite. Got to have a contract signing for Omega and Moxley. Omega comes to the ring. Of course, he's announced as a Hall of Famer for the Wrestling Observer newsletter or whatever. Well, you know what? Let's pause and talk about that right here. I don't care about that. Okay. That doesn't mean anything to me. Mark awards don't mean anything to me. But I will say this. A lot of people have said, well, Meltzer didn't just put Omega into the Hall of Fame. It's voted on by all of these different people, all these different classes of people. And I say, well, look, if you read the Wrestling Observer, you're a certain class of person, right? So essentially, it's biased because Dave picks who gets to vote. Okay, now he can't force you to vote for who he wants you to vote for, but if he picks you to vote, he can, and then he also provides the information. So for a lot of people, he's the source of their information. If he has been telling them for the past 4 or 5 years that Kenny Omega is the best wrestler of all time, he's a 7-star classic wrestler, he's this, that, and the third, he put Japan on the map and all that type of shit. Even though he wouldn't, none of that would have happened if AJ Styles would have stayed in Japan. None of it would have happened. But he still has been priming people. That's the priming mechanism. As you've been telling people with your star ratings and everything that this guy's the best in the world. This guy's not even 40 and he's in a Hall of Fame. That's weird. That is fucking weird. He's not even 40. He's like 35. That's bizarre. And you can't say that he doesn't prime people. He does. And I'm not saying that people don't think for themselves. I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is people tend to think that this stuff is okay because it's coming from an authoritative form or face, authoritative person. Let's put it like that. Meltzer is seen as an authority. And he's saying that Omega is one of the best wrestlers of all time, blah, 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 telling people this constantly. And yeah, people are going to vote for him as being a Hall of Famer. Meanwhile, he's done fuck all or nothing in his own country of birth. He's not a superstar on United States television. How would it look? And I'm going to say this here. How would it look if this Moxley match with Kenny Omega does not do 1 million viewers? What would it look like then? And I'm assuming it might. I'm assuming it might. Because I think a lot of people who were watching NXT that night would probably just watch that match. So I expect that match to draw. But what happens if it doesn't? There's always the opportunity, there's always the chance that it doesn't. What happens if they put so much effort into this match and then it bombs? It does like 800,000 viewers or something. Then you'd have rushed to put this guy in the Hall of Fame and then said every match he's in is a classic. He's the greatest wrestling artist of all time. Yada, yada. Fuck you. Anyway, the contract signing takes place. Kenny Omega comes to the ring. He's wearing, they call him the cleaner. The girls are wearing 80s aerobics instructor outfits, which, whatever. Whatever. And then we find out that Jon Moxley is unresponsive with a bloody nose backstage. He's been knocked out. And nobody knows what happened to him. Kenny Omega talks a little bit, says that, first it was MRSA, now you got a little bloody nose. There's always something. But you're not gonna get out of this match. And so he signs the contract anyway. And he just expects that Moxley will sign it at a later date. So we're gonna try to figure out who knocked out Jon Moxley. It's likely not going to be Kenny Omega. I'm guaranteed it's probably going to be Lance Archer. Because he's not doing anything else. So it's probably going to be Lance Archer knocked out Kenny Omega, and we're not knocked out Kenny Omega, but knocked out Jon Moxley. And that's probably going to lend up to another feud. So that kind of asks the question, is Omega actually going to win this title? Now, I think he should, but there's no guarantee that he will. But it was a kind of interesting angle. Kind of. All right. So they had the Blade versus Pac. This match was again too long because what makes a match too long versus what makes a match just the right length is, do I already know who's going to win when I go into the match? Match could be 30 minutes if I don't have no idea who's going to win. Okay. If I'm 90%, 99% sure that one person is going to win, the match doesn't need to be 15 minutes. It doesn't. Pac versus the Blade was too long because there was no chance of the Blade winning. So why is this match so long? It was stupid long. Eddie Kingston was on commentary. And I was kind of like, okay, I like that Eddie Kingston wanted the commentators to put over the Blade, even though they really were trying not to. I mean, these guys don't talk. You don't have any personality. They don't have no defining characteristics other than how they look. So, I mean, who cares? Like, really, who cares? But I do like what they did here. At the end, after Pac won with the Brutalizer, he looked very uneasy doing that shooting star press. I think he might have been trying to do the red arrow or the black arrow or whatever, and he just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do a shooting star press," because he looked a little uneasy on that top rope. But the match was fine. It was, like I said, the match was too long, but it was fine for what it was. But I like that Eddie Kingston came to the ring. You know, Butcher, Blade, Eddie Kingston beat up Pac, was gonna do bad things to him. It was like almost a prison rape scene. And then Phoenix came out to help Pac. Then they beat down Phoenix. And then, you know, they kind of left the question hanging in the air. Where's Penta? Where does Penta fall on this thing? You know, what is his thoughts on it? And obviously these people can't talk. So Penta comes out and he's got a chair, and you think like, okay, he's going to hit his brother with this chair. What is he going to do? And he runs off Butcher, Blade, and Eddie Kingston. So they reunited the Death Triangle, and they're going to fight Butcher, Blade, and Kingston. I like that. That's good. And they have this angle also where Eddie Kingston's been running around, my best friend with Penta for the last 2 months. And now it's going to be maybe Eddie Kingston trying to talk him out of it. Maybe they're going to try to talk Penta into turning. Maybe Penta needs to turn. I mean, they were ripping masks last week. You know, like Penta and Phoenix are ripping each other's masks off, which is like the height of disrespect in Mexican Lucha Libre wrestling. They're ripping masks, punching each other in the head, bare knuckle. These dudes went out there and damn near tried to kill each other, and now they are blood brothers. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you would get over it if it's your brother, but still, they were out there ripping masks. You know. So maybe it's a trick, and Penta's gonna. I don't think AEW would do that though. I don't think AEW is sophisticated enough to do. Penta is tricking Phoenix and Pac, and then he's going to turn on them later. I don't know. But for right now, I like the idea of Death Triangle versus these other three guys. The other three guys, as far as Butcher and Blade are concerned, they need a mouthpiece. Eddie Kingston needs muscle because I really think that he's exposed the more that he wrestles. He needs to wrestle as little as possible. So I'm okay with that whole ordeal of him being their mouthpiece and them being his muscle. I like that. So I'm cool with Death Triangle. All right, then we had this terrible angle. This angle was god fucking awful. Jade Cargill, who is apparently 9 feet tall, was standing on a chair, crushing Brandy's arms, and she was on the ground like, and Jade Cargill was whipping this goddamn weave back and forth like, I can do it. I'm like, what is you talking about? And then you have Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero holding back the referees. I'm like, didn't Vicky dump Nyla Rose? Then weren't they arguing? Why are they teaming up with Jade Cargill? And then Big Swole comes back there like, you need to back up. You need to back off. And Jade Cargill backed down or whatever. No big deal. But I was weirded out by how tall Jade Cargill was. Now, maybe it was just the heels. I'm pretty sure it was the heels. The heels are pretty high. But she looked like the Big Show of women. Like, she was huge. And that weave or that wig or whatever the hell she was wearing was not doing her any favors. I've seen pictures of her after I saw Dynamite. She looked cute. She does look a lot like Bianca Belair. But when I see her on screen and hear her voice, not good. She's not a good promo. And she comes across very stilted, very like she's acting. But look, she's too new for me to rip to shreds, you know. And I know she's a rookie because she had tryouts with WWE back in, I think, April of 2020 or April of 2019. So she hasn't been in the business that long. So I'm going to give her some slack, but she was very big in comparison to Big Swole. And it had to be the heels. I don't know how tall the heels were in retrospect because I didn't write down how tall the heels were, but I do remember her being very tall in comparison to like Big Swole and everybody else. And I was just kind of like, she's freakishly large. Like she's very, very big. And she was standing on that chair very daintily too. And like you would think that if they had just Pillmanized, what they call it, you put your arm through the chair or whatever and stomp it. Brandy should be selling a lot worse than she was selling it. But I think that she didn't actually do this. She was just kind of like teasing that she was going to stomp the chair. But I don't see why she didn't do it though. Like she should just stomp the chair. I mean, go ahead and do it. Why not? But that was bad. That was all bad. I get that you're trying to push Jade Cargill. I get it. I appreciate it. It's a sister, so I'm gonna give her some slack. But no mas. It was not good. So before we're gonna let's talk about Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa. So Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa had a pretty good match for the NWA Women's Championship, and this is where I pretty much said, why is the NWA Women's title being booked better than the AEW Women's World title? And what's the difference? Okay, so for people who maybe you didn't listen to my videos before, Eric Bischoff talked about this when he talked about the X Division title in Impact, where he basically said it has no identity. Like a TV title has a time limit. It's only defended on TV. It makes it special. It makes it different from other championships. What makes the NWA Women's title different from the AEW Women's World title? Why is the AEW Women's World title not featured when the NWA Women's World title has matches like this? This was a good match between Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. Why were they having good matches on TV for the NWA Women's title while the AWA Women's Champion was nowhere to be seen throughout the entire show? And then, if you're going to have both titles defended on the same show, shouldn't you make sure that people realize that these are the NWA Women's Division? This is the AEW Women's Division. When both the divisions are the same, because Serena Deeb is signed to both NWA and AEW, and I believe Thunder Rosa is also signed to both, or at least and I believe Britt Baker is signed to AWA, not NWA, but AEW. And so you have all this blending going on where it's hard to tell, is this like the Intercontinental Championship of women's wrestling in AEW or what? Like, what is going on? And this is what I mean by, if people don't watch that stuff, they don't understand what's going on. They can go on Twitter and see Serena Deeb is All Elite, and she's walking around with some title from another promotion, defending it on AEW Dynamite against women who have been on Dynamite that you have never seen anywhere else. And, you kind of sitting there confused, like, what is going on? What is this belt? Why does it matter? Maybe you like Serena Deeb, you don't pay too much attention to it. But if you're thinking, you're like, what is this belt and why is it always featured? Like, they feature this NWA Women's title. They don't feature the AEW Women's title. And none of these people talk, by the way. They, maybe Thunder Rosa might say a couple of words here and there. But Britt Baker, all she does is talk. But Sheeta doesn't really get to talk. Nobody. We'll talk about that in a moment, because I do believe they are threatening to do something with the AEW Women's title now, and I believe I know what they're going to do. But this match was good. Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb was actually pretty good. Thunder Rosa's grappling is really good. Serena Deeb, most of her matches is just her selling, where she just basically gets beaten up the whole match, which is kind of the way that you do it. You're a world champion. You don't need to look dominant. You could do a lot of selling and, help the other person get over. What did not make sense in this match was that Britt Baker interfered. I had to, luckily they mentioned it in passing, as far as, in WWE, they beat you over the head with it. But in AEW, they said it in passing that Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa had got into it on Twitter, which means that Britt Baker, of course, DDTs her on the ramp. And then that does not factor into the finish at all. She DDT'd her on the ramp. Then they needed another 2 or 3 minutes of match before Thunder Rosa got pinned with a Swiss, what do you call it? The Swiss special, which is a pretty cool finish. It's like a capture face buster. It's kind of like a pedigree, except for, it's in like an arm capture instead of a underhook. But it was fine. Like, it was a really good match. It was a good night for women's wrestling as far as women's title matches were concerned. They both AEW and NXT knocked it out of the park. Both matches were very different, but they were still very good. But I don't understand why the DDT on the ramp did not factor into the finish. Why did they have to go more beyond that? They should have just had that be the reason Thunder Rosa lost. But people don't. That's basic storytelling right there, dog. And then Thunder Rosa attacked Britt Baker. Well, I have to set it up because most people be like, "Well, why wouldn't you do disqualification?" Because Reba, who is the valet of Britt Baker, had distracted the referee. So Reba had distracted the referee. Britt Baker attacked Thunder Rosa, DDT'd her on the ramp. And then Serena Deeb pinned, but she kicked out. And then they did some more shit to each other where they basically did a bunch of fucking roll-ups and a bunch of other shit. And then Thunder Rosa got caught in the Swiss special and got pinned. And then she was infuriated after she got caught. And then Britt Baker, the genius that she is, she interfered in this match and then went back into the crowd and sat down. Makes perfect sense to me. I mean, you wouldn't want to run and escape and get the hell out of there or nothing like that. No. Just go back to your seat in the crowd. And then Thunder Rosa went out there and found her and they got into a fight. And then they tried to break it up. Look, whatever. But they need to do something else. They need to do something else. This is not working for me. Britt Baker should be trying to wrestle for the AEW Women's title, not in any way involving herself with whatever they're doing in the NWA. That should not be her ministry. She should not care what they're doing over there. Her focus should be on winning the AEW Women's title, which is over here. Anyway, we get this really super cringy John Silver promo. He's fucking terrible, yo. Like, he's fucking terrible. Like, this Keebler Elf motherfucker who's like goofy as hell. He is, he sets up this promo for Anna Jay, who absolutely shits the bed. Like, she's beautiful. Anna Jay is beautiful. But when she talks, it's not good. It's not good, man. She doesn't sound confident. She doesn't sound, she doesn't have that pop to her voice. But essentially what they were talking about was Anna Jay wrestled Hikaru Shida earlier in 2020. But she lost, and Hikaru Shida had taken advantage of this young rookie. But that was a long time ago, even though it's still her rookie year. That was a long time ago. She's won 4 whole matches since then. And, since she's won her matches, and now she's the Queen Slayer because she beat Brandy Rose or something or other. And now she's ranked top 5 in the AEW women's division. And she is challenging Hikaru Shida for the women's world title. I think it would be smart for them to get that belt off Shida. As much as I love Shida, and I really do love Shida, they need to get that belt off of her. And I'm not sure if Anna Jay is the right person. Anna Jay is 22 or 23. She is not that skilled. She is not that good. She's not that good of a promo. She's not that good of a personality, but she is beautiful. You got to get that belt off of her, though. Shida being the champion is not doing any favors. I don't understand why they just don't do title for title. I've been talking about this since the NWA belt showed up. They need to do title for title with the NWA women's title. But since they won't do that, something has to shake with Hikaru Shida being the champion. Is Anna Jay the right person? I don't know. But it seems to me like it might be a good time to breathe new life into the Dark Order and even make it more serious by having Anna Jay or having the Dark Order help Anna Jay win the title. Again, there is something to be said about a weak champion who needs a lot of help to hold the belt. It works if you're a heel And, Anna Jay is beautiful. She can pull it off. She can be a serviceable worker. You don't want her to go out there and do 40 minutes. But I can see a lot of people saying, well, it's like the Divas era all over again if Anna Jay wins the title. Because she probably would just be winning the title just because she looks good. And it would be a great photo opportunity and all that type of stuff. And then you might see people say, oh, it's racist because they didn't give it to Big Swole. So you probably have to have Sheeta beat Anna Jay just to, get away from the wokeness. But it's an attempt at elevating or doing something different with their actual women's title, which I can't do nothing but give them credit for it, even though it's like it feels real last minute and it feels real thrown together. But whatever. I don't care. They need to do something because that title, Sheeta wrestling Nyla Rose 100 times is not going to do it. This is what they get for, having their whole division around Japanese women. There were some good American female wrestlers they could have signed up. They didn't go out of their way to sign a bunch of them until the pandemic. Until hell, in the middle of the pandemic, did they actually start Mr. Hart signing some women. So they need to actually do something. They have women on the roster. They need to do something with them. Or just abandon the division altogether. Not everybody needs to have a women's division. Ring of Honor doesn't feel like they can have one. They abandoned it, at least for now. Impact does really well with their women's division. NXT, WB does great with theirs. AEW can quietly phase that out, and but I don't know what else, man. I don't know what else you could do. Okay, so now let's talk about this really, really bad Inner Circle in Vegas thing. This was not nearly, it was stupid. It wasn't nearly as fun as I would expected it to be. It was dumb. It was just dumb. So, Inner Circle. They're a bunch of jerks. The jerk business. No, that was a bad joke. Anyway, MJF was cheating at blackjack. He made Santana blow on his dice, which was really odd. They were in a strip club where Hager and Wardlow continued to stare at one another. Two ugly motherfuckers staring at each other. That's not fun at all or funny. MJF and Jericho do their bit where they try to one up each other. When this time it was drinks, and MJF ordered 2 shots of moonshine, and then Jericho went way too far, saying 100 proof Everclear, which is essentially fucking gasoline. I have drinking Everclear before. Trust me, you do not want to drink that stuff. It will light your hair on fire. You will piss razor blades after drinking that stuff. It's fucking horrible. And of course, after they drunk that shit, they were drunk. And they started having dreams, and they were seeing things and all type of stuff. And then they showed up with Conan. Conan showed up, and they all got high in a limousine with Conan. And Conan appearing on this show is, I'm guessing, why they actually started doing something with Angelico and Jack Evans, as well as Pentagon and Phoenix, because he, on his podcast with Disco Inferno, he talks every week about AEW not doing anything with Angelico and Jack Evans, or not doing anything with Pentagon and Phoenix. I'm guessing he probably said something to them while he was on set, like, yo, what are you doing with my boys? Because he had all those guys in AAA. So those are all his guys. So I can tell that he probably put in a good word for him to get him a spot. But so they got high and they got drunk, and they started talking about how much the MJF started talking about how much he loved them, and they let an Elvis impersonator be in his Inner Circle. Then MJF's scarf was wrapped around his head. He had started howling with a bottle of wine. And then they do the hangover spot, right, where everybody is hungover. Oh, what happened? What happened yesterday? What the hell happened? Jericho wakes up in bed with the Elvis impersonator, even though they're both still dressed. MJF was in a tub. He's got shit written all over his face. Sammy Guevara is in the middle of a fountain or a pond or something like that. He's just laying there half dressed. They found out he married 3 times. He got married to 3 different broads. Ortiz is working out feverishly. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. That maybe he was high on coke, but he was working out a lot. Santana had some chickens, like random chickens, and then they started making like this. It's crying, and then it's Swoggle in a diaper behind a door. Yeah, that was it. It was Swoggle in a diaper behind a door. This was stupid. This wasn't even fun. Like I get what they were trying to do, but this wasn't even fun, man. Like it was dumb. Like none of this stuff was like excellent highbrow comedy or even stupid enough to laugh at. I did not laugh at anything that took place in this thing. I did not laugh at any of it. And I laugh at silly shit. I laugh at silly shit. I laugh at stupid shit. I have a good sense of humor. None of this was funny. It wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. It was dumb. Like Sammy Guevara talking about, MJF talking about, oh, we want to be blood brothers. And Sammy Guevara was like, you want to be blood brothers? I'll cut my hand right now. I was like, whatever. I just didn't find any of it funny. I was just kind of like, this is stupid. This is just stupid shit. And Jericho missed the ball. He whiffed on this one. This was a whiff. MJF cheating at blackjack. I was kind of like, him having Santana blow the dice. I was like, I kind of popped for Conan. I thought Conan showing up was cool. But I was like, this one just didn't land. It was dumb. It was a waste of everybody's time and energy. It was only 2 vignettes. They had really built up it had been building up on Twitter, and yes, it fucking sucked. Let's just be honest. It fucking sucked. It was fucking dumb. It was an idea. I think me and a lot of my subscribers that talked about it, being an opportunity for them to do like a hangover style thing. And I guess that's what they were going for. It didn't land though. You had to be a little bit raunchier than what they were doing. You had to be a little bit funnier than what they were doing. It just wasn't funny. It wasn't cool. All right, so the main event, Ricky Starks and Brian Cage versus Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes. This is where we got Darby Allin's intricate entrance, where he's being spooky boy in a cathedral. He's riding around on a skateboard, wearing his thumbtack jacket, and his leg was on fire. Why? I don't know. Because apparently Darby Allin just does things like skateboard through an empty church with his leg on fire. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Why is this shit happening with no explanation whatsoever? So then Taz talks about this being rubbish. Like, my guys had to wait in the ring while you're doing this rubbish. And I was like, Taz, that's absolutely correct. That is rubbish. Absolute rubbish. This match is also rubbish. Cody has gotten to the point where he doesn't even use the tunnel anymore because he doesn't believe in baby faces and heels. Apparently somebody must have hit him with the babyface and heel tunnel picture because he says there's no babyface and heel. So people are like, why is there 2 tunnels? Because it's Impact. Because AEW is Impact meets WCW. That's why. No. So then he's got gates that are in the middle of the ramp that he comes in, that he makes his entrance in, and it's just ridiculous. I did enjoy that how Darby showed off a lot of his wrestling skill early. A lot of he did a lot of hammer locks, and he showed his speed and his agility. He actually learned some shit in wrestling school, so I appreciated that. It wasn't the best shit in the world. Wasn't bad though. It wasn't bad at all, and that was okay. Now Brian Cage, I have been very critical of Brian Cage. I'm not a fan, by the way. I'm not a fan of Brian Cage at all. He works like Tony Nese. Now, if you don't know who Tony Nese is, just watch an episode of 205 Live. You'll see this very muscular, very well-defined cruiserweight. His name is Tony Nese. He has no personality whatsoever. And he works just like Brian Cage, except for Brian Cage is much, much bigger and does like power moves. But as far as like the spin kicks You know, the thigh slap and spin kicks and all that type of stuff. He works just like that. The moonsault that Cage does, he does it too. It's almost the exact word. It's almost like, you know, somebody's copying somebody's homework. You know, two big muscular. Well, I can't say Nice is big. He's probably like 5'8" or something like that, 5'7", but maybe 5'6". But he's muscular and, you know, all that type of shit. But Brian Cage, I'm not a fan, dog. I could do without this. All right, so we in the picture in picture, and again, I've said it before. They need to stop doing things in picture in picture. Taz cheated. He pulled the leg. So Arn Anderson was so angry at this, he didn't go over to confront Taz. Instead, he threw a chair in the ring to signify how angry he was that Taz was interfering in the match. And I was like, what kind of coach is so stupid? Why would you ever have a coach that is that dumb that you would go and get yourself ejected by throwing a chair in the ring? Like, Arn Anderson cannot possibly be that stupid. That's just bad booking right there, dog. So the finish came with Cage using his, what does he call it, the drill claw from the second rope onto Darby Allin for a pinfall. Obviously, he pinned Darby Allin so he could say that he's going to fight Darby Allin for the TNT title. That makes sense. And then the team Taz attacks Cody and Darby Allin. They're going to continue to beat him up. And then Will Hobbs comes out. There and he runs off Team Taz with the chair. And then he puts the chair down and he picks up the FTW title. And he teases that he's going to challenge Brian Cage for it. And then I believe he hit Cody Rhodes with the TNT title. And Will Hobbs turned heel and helped beat up Darby Allin and Cody. And I said to myself, okay, at least Will Hobbs is doing something. But wouldn't this have made a lot more of an impact if he was actually on TV? All we've been here for weeks. Will Hobbs. I'm still waiting on your answer. Will Hobbs. And, you know, we got nothing for like a month. And then out of nowhere, he turned heel and joined Team Taz. And I'm like, it would have made more sense if, like, after every match we saw, like, he was wrestling on Dynamite or something like that, squash match, beating somebody. And then Taz was like, what's your answer? You gotta give me an answer. And, you know, kind of like he was being intimidated by Taz and Cage and all these guys. But he was like ignoring them, blowing them off or whatever. And then he turned on them. It would have made more sense. It would have made more of an impact if he was visible. Will Hobbs is not visible. He was on fucking Dark. All these people wrestle on goddamn Dark. And then you expect people to have huge responses to what they do on TV. You cannot expect everybody to watch everything. Okay? You have to refer to these things, you know? It's the same problem I have with WWE. Like, yes, when I made this video about NXT, I said, well, you should mention 205 Live. It's like, yeah, if you want people to watch the show, mention it. But don't assume that people watch it, you know, and know what's going on. That's what AEW is doing. They're assuming everybody watched Dark. They're assuming everybody watched Being the Elite. They assume everybody watching NWA and know who the Motor City Machine Guns because he watched Impact and all that type of stuff. Nobody's watching that shit. Nobody knows. Most people probably forgot by now that Will Hobbs was even in this situation. Taz said he had 3 weeks. He gave him like 6. Well, probably like 4 or 5. But, you know, and then you had this Will Hobbs story, right? Where he talked about the story of his brother getting killed and all that type of stuff. That's a babyface story. Why did he end up being a heel? I don't know. But look, I'm a fan of Will Hobbs. I want to see the guy do well. So I'm going to be on a same thing about Top Flight and all these guys, man. Red Velvet and all these people. I want to give it a chance. I'm going to give them some time to straighten up and fly right. But AEW Dynamite, man, it's not hard to watch, but some of these matches are too damn long. Man, I cannot sit through another Orange Cassidy 15-minute match, 10, 12 minutes. I can't do it. It's too long. You know, if he's just going to do his routine, this match needs to be short. And potential squash matches needs to go about pretty fast. If they last longer than 8 minutes, it's a problem. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you.